What's up, guys? Welcome to the second take. I'm Zach, and I'm also kind of Jonah this week. Jonah is not going to be on this podcast, just going to be me. He'll be back with us next week, but since we are 19-year-olds and we did just get out of our freshman year of college, we got some things going on, some time conflicting difficulties, so just going to be me this week. But we are in the midst of one of the most exciting times in sports with the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals taking shape at the exact same time. So once again, that's going to be our focus this week. So to get started with the weekend review, pretty brief. The Warriors take the first two games from the Cavs pretty simply. Doesn't look like the Cavs have much of a shot. Penguins go up 2-1 on the Sharks, but each team has won at home. So see if the Sharks can even that up. And finally, we lost a boxing legend, an athletic legend, a civil rights legend, however you want to phrase it, in Muhammad Ali this week. So that's unfortunate news for our society, but talk a little bit about that. So let's get started with hockey first. So, as I said, the Sharks are down 2-1 to the Penguins. The NHL probably can't ask for much more than what they've asked for or what they've seen so far with this series. 3 games so far. Every game has been a 1-goal game, 2 overtime games, and game 1 was won by the Penguins in the last 3 minutes, I think. Bonino scored a game winner in the last couple minutes there. So really it's been dominated by the non-stars. Some numbers for you. Crosby has 2 assists, no goals, so 2 points. Malkin doesn't have an assist or a goal, so no points. Pavelski has no points, and Thornton has 2 assists, which both came in Game 3. So, as you can see there, the 4 best players on the ice at any time only have 4 combined points, and they're all assists, which kind of shows you that this game is being won by other guys. Nick Bonino, like I said, with a big goal, Game 1. Goalies, Jones for the Sharks has been great. He had 40 saves in Game 3, so not bad at all. Murray's been good for a rookie goalie. He's been great, but for most goalies, he's been pretty solid. Yeah, I mean, you don't really expect Crosby, Malkin, Pavelski, Thornton to be quiet for very long. So if I had to guess, these guys will be scoring pretty quickly here. Like we said earlier, Jonah and I both picked the Penguins to win this series pretty easily. Still don't really see any problems with that, even though, as we always say, series don't start until the home team loses. Home team hasn't lost yet, but Penguins are just the better team. Unfortunately for the NHL, obviously San Jose is a little bit of a small market team. Pittsburgh really isn't even that big of a market either, but in hockey terms, Pittsburgh is pretty big. But they have their final, Stanley Cup Final, is always the same time as the NBA Finals. The playoffs coincide, and in my opinion, the NBA is a little more popular. Probably the numbers would back that up as well. So it's kind of unfortunate for them that they don't get the viewership they probably deserve, and that's probably 110% due to the fact that NBA is at the exact same time. So this year it was the first time I ever went to a hockey game. I saw the Capitals play the Kings in a regular season game, just an average Thursday night. That was my first ever hockey game, and it was way more than I expected. Crazy crowd, great game, a lot of fun to be at on a Thursday night in the middle of Washington, D.C. I mean, I knew it was going to be fun. I knew the game was going to be good, but I wasn't expecting the atmosphere that was there. And then I was lucky enough to see Game 1 against the Flyers in the first round of the playoffs, and that was one of the best games I've ever seen, not because of the game was great, but because of the environment. So I talked to Jonah a little bit about this too, but if I was to rate games that I've seen professionally, college, anything in my life, being a Duke fan and probably my favorite sport is college basketball, I would have to say college basketball is above anything. Maryland games are pretty crazy when we have a good opponent. I saw Iowa when they were ranked number 3. Saw Georgetown, which is a huge rivalry. I saw Michigan, which was a good one. A lot of good teams in the Big Ten that I got to see. Those were always crazy, especially being a student at that college. You can obviously probably tell what that scene is like. And I also was lucky enough to see Duke at Cameron Indoor probably 6 years ago against Temple, which was a good game. Temple's always a good team, but that was something that I've never seen before. So college games, whether it's Duke or Maryland, those are always number one, and probably always will be. I don't know that I could ever be in an atmosphere that's bigger than that. Yeah, like a North Carolina Duke game at Cameron Indoor would probably be the greatest thing that I could ever see in my life. So that puts college ahead. And then number two, again, being a Giants fan, probably has something to do with this, but Giants Stadium, when it's packed with its 80,000 people, is one of the loudest places I've ever been in my life. Obviously, 80,000 people make a lot of noise. One memory that sticks out is I saw the Panthers play the Giants this year. Panthers were, 13-0 going into that game, I think. 14-0 maybe. Went up 35-0 on the Giants. Let's just say 80,000 turned into 25,000 relatively quickly. It was done, over, no chance. And then with about 45 seconds left, Giants found themselves in a tie game, came all the way back. I'll never forget Odell catching a 20-yard touchdown pass from Eli right over Josh Norman and giving him a little celebration. After, I'm sure all of you know that nice little brawl they had all game long, so that was great to see. And yeah, it was 25,000 people, but it felt like it was the world in that stadium. It was the loudest thing I could ever imagine. So those are my top two. It's a little bit of a tangent, obviously, but number three would definitely be the Capitals. I've been to a couple NBA playoff games. One was the Cavs in Boston when this was before LeBron left, when the Cavs still had the big three, or when the Celtics still had the big three. That was pretty crazy, but probably because I wasn't really a fan of either team, it wasn't that crazy of an atmosphere for me. So that's probably what puts that behind the Capitals. But just for the Capitals to be such a great atmosphere, in a regular season game on a Thursday night, most people aren't going to that game, whether they're working or whatever. It just shows that hockey is a great environment and a great sport to watch. So I almost feel bad that it gets the rep that it does and gets the lack of viewership that it does because of the NBA. There's obviously a lot of hockey fans that aren't basketball fans and vice versa. I just feel like the basketball side is a little heavier in terms of viewership. NBA makes more money than the NHL, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we're getting a great series here out of the Penguins and the Sharks, and I feel like not that many people are going to even know about it. It's kind of like you wake up in the morning, look at the score, and say, oh yeah, it's whatever, 2-1 Penguins, and they're going to win Game 4 3-1 or something like that. So, I don't know. I mean, the more you watch, the more you like it. I don't have a horse in the race, and I hate the Penguins. So I haven't watched every minute of every game. Caught a couple periods here and there, but I've mostly been focusing on the finals for the NBA, which we're actually about to move into right now. The Warriors, as we said earlier, were up 2-0 on the Cavs. It's really been not a great postseason by any means by the Warriors. They haven't done anything great. Haven't done anything really bad either. Steph and Clay were basically non-existent in Game 1. Still won by 15. The bench did everything they needed to. No problems at all. Basically, what the Warriors are able to do now, which is different from the Thunder series, is that the length of the Thunder bothered the Warriors so much. They're very athletic, they're very long, and they're very skilled. And individually, they're all solid defenders. Roberson's a great defender. Russ is just too athletic not to be. Durant is just too big and long not to be. Ibaka's a great defender. Steven Adams is a great defender. So maybe they're not the best defensive team because they don't have great rotations or whatever, but they're great individually. So one-on-one, you're not going to take Russ very well. One-on-one, Roberson could eat you alive. Durant can get in the way one-on-one. Things like that. The Cavs are the exact opposite. They don't have any good, besides LeBron, one-on-one defenders, but they have a solid defensive team just because they rotate well and they play well together defensively. So, being that the difference with the Thunder going small is Kevin Durant, who's 6'11", playing the 3, or playing the 4, Serge, who's 6'10", playing the 5, Roberson, who's 6'7", playing the 3, Waiters and Westbrook, that's not small. That averages 6'9", 6'8". The Cavs going small is Thompson, Love, LeBron, JR, Shumpert, Kyrie, any of those guys. Deladova, that's averaging 6'3", 6'4". That's not going to bother Steph. That's not going to bother Clay. Draymond, as we've seen, has gotten slightly back to himself. Still not the complete old Draymond, but not far from it. So the question I've been hearing is, are Clay and Steph needed to win a finals? And that question is just bogus. Yeah, they're needed if you watch the game. The reason that the Warriors players not named Clay and not named Steph are open is because there's at least 3 eyes, or at least 3 bodies following Clay, following Steph. There's at least 2 defenders always making sure that they can be getting a hand up. So if you have 2 defenders that close to one person, somebody's open. And that somebody last game was Draymond in Game 2. He had 28 points. Game 1, that somebody was Sean Livingston. He had 20 points. Andre Iguodala has played great, just like he always does against great opponents, such as Kevin Durant, such as LeBron James, such as James Harden. There's so much on this team that makes them so good together, and they really haven't even played. I seriously don't think they've given an A game yet. Maybe Game 6 in OKC, the second half was probably an A+, but the first half was probably a B at best. We've never seen 48 minutes of them playing A basketball, which I think if we ever saw would probably be the most dominant performance by a team ever, just because of how skilled they are and how well they shoot. So to say Clay and Steph aren't needed is just absolutely bogus. The attention that they require is what makes the Warriors that good. Steph and Clay aren't even able to really get space whatsoever. And when they do, they haven't been knocking down shots. So maybe that makes you think they're not needed, but because of that attention, they're needed. That's what makes the Warriors go. So Steph and Clay has the best jump shot in terms of looks that we've ever seen. Steph made 400 threes this year. He broke every record you could ever think about breaking with shooting. He's won 2 MVPs, unanimous this year. You're not going to stop these guys from scoring. It's been 2 games. They struggled for a little bit in the Thunder series, probably for the better half of 4 games. I promise you they'll have a big performance. Sorry about that. But I don't know that you even need that big performance. If the bench keeps playing this way, and the defense, most importantly, which we're about to get to, if the defense keeps playing that way, there's no way that the Warriors won't win this championship. So, LeBron has kind of been getting to the rim at will. I mean, you're never going to stop LeBron. He's 6'8", 260. Good luck finding someone that can stop a person that's built like he is, as quick as he is, and as skilled as he is, and has a basketball IQ even half of what he has. So, you're not going to stop him. But I don't think you could ask for better defense than what Iggy has given to the Warriors guarding LeBron. He's one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA. He has been for a while and probably always will be until he retires. He's just that good, and he doesn't get the attention, which is kind of crazy. Just watch him play LeBron for 5 minutes. You'll see why we say that. Kyrie has been not himself. He's been struggling a little bit with his shot. Still knocking down 15, 20 points. They're going to need him to get to 25, 30 to win a game. But he's not been bad per se. And Kevin Love's been pretty bad. Mediocre at best. Stephen A. Smith said, talking about his concussion that he got in Game 2, it's like worried that he wouldn't be able to play Game 3. Basically, the adage was, who cares? He hasn't done anything anyways. So, not like it's going to be that important. And that really leads directly into the problem that we were talking about last week, which was that the Cavs kind of go as Kevin Love goes. If he starts out hot, the Cavs start out hot. If he starts out cold, the Cavs start out cold. And as we said, that's not the recipe that you want to win a championship. And we're seeing that a little bit. The Warriors' defense, though, has... LeBron is working for everything he's getting. So, I mean, if he's taking it to the rim, yeah, he's scoring because he's just big. But he's got 3 bodies to try to knock out of the way. He's getting smacked all over. And really, the refs have let them play big time. Steph Curry is getting held on every screen he's running through, getting bumped, getting pushed, getting everything. They're trying to do exactly what they did with the Thunder, as the Thunder did, the Cavs, that is, trying to stop Steph. Same thing with Clay. Steph is getting fouled literally every time he runs through a screen, and there's no whistles. LeBron has gotten crushed sometimes going to the rim, nothing. Bigs inside are banging like crazy, going for offensive rebounds and nothing, which I don't have a problem with. I think this is good basketball. I talked to Jonah at the last game, just texted him saying if every game was like this, the NBA would be better than college to watch, just because of how much physicality, how much talent, how much skill, and how much desire there is on the court. That's the best product you could put out there, and that has a lot to do with defense, as crazy as that sounds, because we watch basketball to see Steph score 50, Clay score 50, then make crazy jump shots that nobody else can make. But when you play defensively, the harder you play defensively, the better your offense has to be in order to win a game. So the harder that LeBron plays defensively, the harder that Kyrie plays defensively, the harder that Trumper plays defensively, trying to lock up Steph, trying to lock up Clay, Draymond, whoever you want to say, the more you're going to have to see out of the Warriors. So think about that when you're watching next time, see how the Warriors and Cavs are playing. But the Warriors' defense has pretty much been perfect. And really the Warriors have the Cavs' number, not necessarily offensively because they're not scoring to their capability, as you can see with Steph and Clay, but defensively. They allow 92 points a game in the last, this will be 8. So in the last 8 playoff games against the Cavs, which would be the 6 finals games last year. I know they didn't have Kyrie or Kevin Love for those. Still, they had them for 1, and I know they won that 1 game. But this year they have them for both, and let's just say it hasn't helped at all. So in those 8 games, the Warriors have given up 92 points on average to the Cavs, a team that scores 104, 106 points in the last couple of years, which is a huge difference. 14 points a game is a very big difference. And that's 110% on the Warriors defense. It's not the Cavs going cold. It's not the LeBron is not being LeBron. LeBron is still LeBron. He's still getting his 8 assists, his 8 rebounds, his 25 points sometimes. I know he only had 18, but he didn't even play the second half really because they were getting blown out. So can't really talk much about that. But you can't say more. You can't say enough about the Warriors' defense. It's been perfect, really, in my opinion. And really, the Cavs hasn't been either. As I said, Steph and Clay can't even breathe for 5 seconds. They're getting bumped everywhere, pushed everywhere. So I think that I still like my pick of the Warriors in 5. I think Jonah said Warriors in 7, or I think he said 6. So, I mean, we're both right there. I like the Cavs to steal Game 3, and then the Warriors to win 4 and 5 and seal the deal at home. I don't know. LeBron's not going to get swept, I don't think. He's too good, and that team's too skilled and talented to to really not win a game. I mean, the Warriors are by far the better team, clearly more skilled, clearly more talented, clearly play better together, but LeBron's the best player in the world, and he's not going to get swept. So, yeah, I think that we might see one good game in this series in terms of score and competitiveness, but I also think that if you watch the intensity of the game, if you watch the heart of both teams, I know the Cavs gave up kind of in second half of Game 2, but they're still a finals team. They still have the best player in the world, as I just said. They still have Kyrie, who's one of the best players, one of the top. I think he's a top 5 point guard, but he's absolutely a top 10 point guard, and he's absolutely a top 20 player in the NBA. So they're a great team. So just watch for the defensive intensity by both teams, and I promise you'll see a better offensive game by both teams if that defensive intensity is picked up. I know it's harder to score on better defense, but you have to work harder. The more the Warriors can work the ball around, the more the Warriors can get locked in by the Cavs trying to lock them down defensively, the better you're going to see a game from Steph and Clay. The Warriors tend to come out lackadaisical almost every game. It's very frustrating to watch because I think that if you ever saw their full ability for 48 minutes, as I said earlier, it'd be one of the best games probably by any team ever. They're that good. So I would love to see that once. I would also love to see the Cavs do that because I think the Cavs have a lot that they haven't shown yet. But I think Tyronn Lue's a little over his head, and I think the Warriors are kind of just going to coast now, which is why I think the Cavs will take Game 3. Just because the Warriors turned it over 20 times in Game 2. Like, they're already sloppy, and they still escaped. And to say they escaped and won by 35 is pretty funny. But the Cavs at home is a different story than playing at Oracle or Roracle, whatever you want to call it. So, Cavs have something left. But the Warriors are still the better team, as we said, and they're still going to win the series. So, next week let's see, Game 3 is Wednesday, Game 4 is Friday. So, by our next podcast, the Warriors might be the back-to-back champions, but we'll definitely be talking more about that next week, see what we have then. So, lastly, we're going to talk a little bit, since it is the month of June, a little bit about the NBA draft. Not too much because we're going to have a draft show later on. Pretty excited about that. We're making our big boards and mock drafts as we speak. But we're going to talk about, and what is a weak draft, 2 players that are potential superstars. And when we say superstars, we mean superstars, like like the LeBrons, like those kind of guys. People that will take over the NBA. And that's the top 2 picks in the draft, which I can guarantee you they will be. We just don't know in what order yet. That's Ben Simmons and Brandon Ingram. So Ben Simmons is a forward who went to LSU, obviously. A lot of questions about him after college when there were none when he was going into college. And Brandon Ingram is kind of the other end of the spectrum. Some questions when he was going into college, even though everyone knew he was crazy skilled. Went to Duke. Absolutely dominated there for the last 75% of the season. Struggled a little bit out of the gate, but you could tell he increasingly got more confident and got better and better and better as every day, every game, every minute went on. And now he almost has no question marks for some NBA scouts. So in my opinion, yes, I am slightly biased, obviously, but I think Brandon Ingram is the clear-cut first pick in the NBA draft. Even though I don't think it's going to work that way, I think Ben Simmons will be selected, but I think Ingram should be. He's better. I think he's better in a lot of ways. One way is offensively. Ben Simmons has a LeBron-type game where he can get to the rim at ease, make every pass, play defense, whatever you want to call it. Like, he basically can do everything. But Brandon Ingram is better offensively because he's a world-class scorer. Right now, he has a jump shot that works for him. I anticipate NBA teams changing that up a little bit. Kind of like not as drastic as what they're doing with Justice Winslow right now, where basically reconstructed a shot from top to bottom. But I do suspect that some scouts won't like his jumper very much. So I think that might change a little bit. But he's got a great mid-range game, pretty much deadly, Sean Livingston style. I think his three is going to get better and better, but as I say, he's going to struggle a little bit early with his jump shot. He's got those KD arms, and KD is a person I see a lot of when I watch Brandon Ingram. He's very lanky, pretty much a ice in your veins scorer, going to go at you all day long, going to score on you when you think you're playing perfect defense. There's nothing you can do about it. I also think he's a good defender. KD is a great defender too. It's just not because he's athletic or whatever. It's just he's sneaky. He's long. He is athletic, but he's not like a freak like Russell Westbrook. He's sneaky athletic because of his length and because of his IQ, which I think Brandon Ingram has a lot of. So he's going to be a good defender because of that. I saw him play some pretty good scores in college. Trying to think off the top of my head. He guarded Damian Lee from Louisville. I know that. Spent a little bit of time guarding Benajay from Syracuse. Yeah, he really took off in the second half of the year when they moved him to the small ball 4, because he's just more athletic than most 4s in college, and is not a 4, he's a 3. In college, when you have mismatches like that, they tend to be exploited much more than they would be in the NBA. So that probably is going to be a little bit of concern for NBA scouts, just because while he wasn't great when he was playing the 3, he's still good when he's playing the 3, but not as great when playing the 4, or not as great as he was when he played the 4. So it's a little bit scary for scouts, but we'll see what happens there. But yeah, as I said, I really like Brandon Ingram. I think he's a world-class basketball player. I think he's going to be good for a really long time, and he's going to go to either Philly or he's going to go to LA. And I think if he goes to LA, he'll be in great shape. Really like the team with Clarkson and D'Angelo Russell and Brandon Ingram and Julius Randle and I'm forgetting somebody and all those guys, but they got some talent there. Just got to find. Even with Luke Walton, he would work well, but they just got to find a couple more big guys. And which Ben Simmons is, but I don't think that he's what that team really needs. I think Philly needs someone like Ben Simmons, probably just a all-star playmaker, that kind of deal. So let's talk a little bit about him. He's a prototype NBA body, basically. He's long at 6'10", built pretty well, very athletic, can handle the ball because he started out as a guard. Basically developed his ball handling, then worked his way up into getting some post moves, and now he's like an Anthony Davis, where he can bring you out to the three-point line, take you off the dribble, and make you look like a fool, or he can post you up and just go to work and down low. It looks like I saw a video probably a week ago on I can't remember where I saw it, ESPN I think, where he kicked the ball up in the air to himself and then took a fadeaway 3, like spinning around, not looking at the hoop for any second whatsoever. And it looked nice. I mean, he made the shot, which is good enough in itself, but he has a smooth stroke. You can tell he has confidence in his jump shot, which makes me wonder why he didn't go to that really ever at LSU. I can't remember him taking one jump shot at LSU outside the paint, so I don't understand why he didn't go to it. It looks nice. Seems like he's comfortable with it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a solid enough shot. Fundamentally, it looks good. So we'll see what happens with that in the NBA. He's definitely going to need a jump shot in the NBA. But he gets to the rim at will, as I said earlier. He's just that big. He's that good. He's that talented. He's that good with the ball. So he's going to be able to do whatever he wants, just like LeBron. He's an able-bodied defender, so he can play defense. But my next point is that he doesn't have a motor, at least in my opinion. So I don't really trust his desire, which means that being an able-bodied defender, he can play great defense, but I don't know that he ever is going to play great defense because I don't know that he cares to. So there's one factor in that desire that scares me the most, It's that he's about to make a stupid amount of money, and money plus lack of desire, plus a bad team in Philly, plus superstardom is probably not the best thing for Ben Simmons. I almost think the best thing for him would be to go second, because I think he'd be a much better player than having a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Always thinking Brandon Ingram. People think Brandon Ingram is better than him. It'll elevate Ben Simmons' game. So I think that could work in his favor, although where it is that Philly is leaning almost 100% towards Ben Simmons, so that looks like it's not going to happen. So with Ben Simmons' motor, you kind of saw it at LSU. I mean, just on his talent alone, that team probably should have made the NCAA tournament, and add in Antonio Blakeney, add in Tim Quarterman. They got a good roster there. Questionable coach that I don't like very much. I think Ben Simmons would have been much better off going to some place, obviously Duke, even Kentucky, and I have no faith in Calipari, so I still think that would have been better than LSU for him. But you saw it there where you were just waiting for Ben Simmons to take the game over. You were almost begging for Ben Simmons to get to the rim, just go on a little 10-0 run by himself, to will his team to victory, like the talent that he has and the ability that he has. You were just waiting for that to happen, and it really never happened. I mean, I think back to a game at Oklahoma. It was at LSU, Oklahoma at LSU. LSU had them beat. They were dead in the water. It was like a 6 or 7 point game, couple minutes left. Buddy Hield wasn't making a lot of shots. They were playing pretty good defense on him. Cousins couldn't really get going. Woodard was kind of keeping him in the game, making some big threes here and there. All of a sudden it gets down to 4, and you're like wondering, like, oh, here we go, like Ben Simmons, let's go, take over. This is where you're going to show that you're the best player in the world, blah, blah, blah. And slowly but surely, Buddy Hield hits a 3 here, he hits a 3 there. LSU starts to get a little dysfunctional, not knowing where the ball's going to go. Ben Simmons doesn't even touch it some possessions. And there you go. There's the winner, Oklahoma. And you're just sitting there after the game, and I remember thinking, like, this guy's the best player in the world in college, and he doesn't even touch the ball in some possessions, and when he does touch it, he doesn't even care to do anything with it. Like, where's that talent? Where's that athleticism? Where's that killer instinct? And that's what Brandon Ingram has that Ben Simmons doesn't. And I think that it's pretty evident when you watch the games. If you watch Duke in the last 4 minutes of a game, in a close game, guess where the ball is going every time? Grayson Allen and Brandon Ingram. And Grayson Allen is 100 times better than any other player that was on the LSU roster. And Brandon Ingram was still having the ball pretty consistently on those possessions where it was close. You look at LSU, that's not the case with Ben Simmons. 4 minutes left, close game. Ben Simmons sometimes would have the ball, he'd bring it up, get rid of it immediately, and go stand in the corner. And as we just talked about, he didn't shoot jump shots, so standing in the corner is basically like sitting on the bench because nobody's going to guard him there. So they took himself out of his game, and that's when you saw Tim Quarterman was the one that was winning games for LSU because he was doing everything in the clutch. So that worries me a lot about Ben Simmons, which is a big chunk of the reason why I take Brandon Ingram first. I think either way, definitely either way, you're going to have a great team player, a great player that could develop your team big time. In the case of Philly, that's what they want, 110%. So we're going to have more of this discussion later on. Try to keep this podcast a little bit shorter since it's just me, and I've already talked for like 30 minutes at least. So that's going to be the end of this podcast. We'll be doing it again next Monday. Jonah will be back, and you won't have to listen to me for 34 straight minutes. But thank you for listening to this one. Had some fun doing this. Probably going to be some Warriors talk again, because I'm expecting them to be the champions by the time we hold our next podcast. Hopefully some hockey too, which won't be Sidney Crosby holding up a trophy, and if I can hope well enough. And then we'll see what else happens in the world of sports. There's always something, so we'll talk a little bit about whatever happens. So thanks for listening again. This is our 13th podcast, so 3 months and a little bit more. We've had a great time doing this. We're going to continue to do it for hopefully a long time. and we really thank you for listening. Just please remember to share everything. Our website again is secondtakesports.weebly, which is weebly.com. Our Twitter is at second, as in 2ND, take sports, and there's a underscore between second take and taken sports. So at second_take_sports. So follow that, then retweet, share on Facebook, share on LinkedIn, share on whatever you want to share on, and just keep trying to get our podcast out there. And we thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.